Hello, welcome to Light from Above. My name is David Kenney. Glad you could watch the program with us. Today we're talking about the parables of Jesus. What are parables? There's stories, and there's stories with applications, and they are so potent and relevant even to today. If you spend just a little time, sometimes it's a little bit challenging, sort of research what the first century world was like during the day of Jesus, and you could really see how these stories would stick with people and the applications would be there. The term parable means to throw alongside. It's a Greek term, and the idea is you have like an earthy story, but it has spiritual meanings that go along with it, right alongside it. And Jesus, sometimes he was popular, sometimes he wasn't. He used the parables very effectively. Sometimes it was to deal with people that were trying to entrap him. Sometimes it was to help his disciples to be able to remember things. Different reasons why. In this particular lesson, we're going to talk about the parable of the lamp, which is one that many people are familiar with. And again, it is a very powerful reminder to us, especially if you are in a situation, well, hopefully not right now, obviously, where you don't have any power and you don't have any light. A lot of things we take for granted. It's easy to do that. Well, in this parable of the lamp, it actually occurs in 4 different spots. And I'm going to look and read to you the one in Matthew chapter 5, but I'll put the others up there too. I know the print's a little small, so I'll read the one in Matthew for you, and I'll read it a little slowly. You can read the others as Mark 4, 21 through 23, Luke 8, 16 through 18, and Luke 11, 33 through 36. It says, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." I want us to focus on the fact that we are the lights of the world as Christians, and we can't put our Christianity under a basket or under a bed. And we need to talk to people about the importance of understanding what the gospel is about and how it's relevant to their lives. And we have to do it in such a way that we get their attention, but at the same time, we want to be careful that we don't appear haughty or arrogant or things like that. And sometimes people make accusations along those lines, whether it's true or not, but I'm not really sure. But one thing I want us to think about is we need to remind ourselves that we are sometimes the only example of a Christian some people even consider or read or even know. And that's sad because Bibles in our day and age, they're so prevalent. Anybody could have one. Anybody could read one. Anybody can go into, like even here at Wadsworth Library, any resident of Wadsworth, no matter what their financial position is, they can go in, they can get a library card, they can check out books of the Bible. They can also get on the internet. And there's all kinds of websites about the Bible. But the question is, do they read and do they understand and do they practice? And that's what I want us to think about, how we put our lights under the basket. How do we do that? And how do we put our lights on lampstands where people can see? And the first one I want to talk about is the statement about effectiveness. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and we want to be effective. And Gregory Allen Tidwell wrote in his book, The Effective Edge, he had some real good things for us to think about. He says, effectiveness is in short supply. In the church, as in government and business, the lack of effectiveness hinders our success and limits the good we can accomplish. Often, when faced with failure, we seek an easy scapegoat rather than deal with the hard task of owning up to the problems in our thoughts and actions. We imagine if only we had more resources, knew the latest methods, or were free from certain obstacles, then we would succeed. Blaming circumstances, however, misses the mark. We must look deeper. We must look at ourselves and with honesty face our own failures. And it's really important for us to think about that. A lot of people have invested a lot of money in different operations to try to evangelize, to try to get the word out about the gospel. Sometimes they do that through mass mailing. Sometimes they do that through television. Sometimes they may do that through special events and like Vacation Bible School or youth rallies, and they'll spend a lot of money. And sometimes those things are effective. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they may be effective for a while, but maybe their effectiveness has changed, and maybe we need to adopt a different method. Well, sometimes, we're tempted to keep a hold of what we're comfortable doing, even when what we're doing that we're comfortable with may not work anymore. And it's hard to make changes at times, but we need to be open-minded and think about how we can be effective lights, not only just in the church, but also in our community. How do people know who we are? When they see us, what do they think? Does the idea of us being a Christian even cross their mind? Or if they hear it, are they shocked by it? That's something that we need to really think about, especially when we think about our example. Why people put their Christian lights under a basket? And that's the question I want you to think about. Putting our lights under a basket, are we doing that? Why do people do that? Maybe he or she doesn't want people to know that they're a Christian. Maybe they're ashamed of it. Maybe this person doesn't want to be inconvenienced as a Christian. Sometimes people have demands upon people when they find out they're a Christian, and maybe they don't want to be bothered by that. And I'm not saying these are right or wrong. I'm just suggesting, why do people put their lights under a basket? Maybe they don't want this. They don't want to support the church as a Christian. Maybe there's something about the church where they attend they don't like, and so they don't want to be affiliated. Maybe they don't want to work. That's always a problem. Now, oftentimes there are people, they're looking for opportunities to serve. They're looking for opportunities to serve others. There are people, they're very generous, and they want to see much good done for people. People spend a lot of their time, their energy, their resources to do that, and they really want that. But not everybody's that way. Some people don't want to be bothered by that, and so they may be wanting to put their light under a basket. There's some. We live in a day and age of resources. We have so many resources available to us that we can actually spread the gospel in our community far more effectively than it may be in times past. Now, the results may sort of make you wonder, but you could go door to door, but what if you're in a congregation that has a bunch of elderly people that aren't able to walk anymore? What do you do then? Well, maybe you do something like maybe a TV program. I'm on a public access television station here in Wadsworth. They're kind enough to send my programs to Gospel Broadcasting Network on my behalf, and it's shown on the network. Well, it's a public access TV station. We're blessed to be able to be on it. And so we're able to produce these shows, and they're shown in the community. People can watch them as they see fit, and they're on the internet and things like that. Well, we do that. Why do we do that? Because we want people to know. We want people to know about the church. Maybe it's websites. I mean, websites are sort of, people are like, website? You talking about a website? That's old news. But let me encourage you to think about something about your website. When's the last time you looked at it? Really looked at it? I mean, like, is the preacher's name updated? Are the elders' names updated? Is the area code updated? You may want to check that. Some of our websites are beautiful, but they haven't been looked at in 5, 10, 15, whatever years. You may want to revamp it. You may want to spruce it up and take a look at it. That's something you can do. There's all kinds of literature out there. It's not just old literature. I mean, some of it's back from the 40s and 50s. I can remember one of our members brought me a bag full of pieces of paper. And it was just folded over. There were little strips of paper. And it said something about, we want to invite you to our services. And it was on a mimeograph machine. It just about, when you opened the bag up, it about made you gag just from the paper and the ink from that time era. And you open it up and looked at it, and I said, well, let's just throw these away, because people would be turned off by that because it's so old. But also it had another problem. It actually had the area code that had changed. We're in a 330 area code. They had 216 on there. So that wasn't going to help us too much. So you may want to take a fresh look. It might be a good idea to have somebody come and just do an assessment for you and tell you what they think. Now, you can do whatever you want with that. But sometimes having a fresh pair of eyes can help you to know those things. You have DVDs, all kinds of things. Well, how can we hide our lights under a basket. Well, never talk to anybody about religion. Don't ever do that. Or never invite anybody to church. Or never give anyone a piece of literature about the gospel. Never let others see you do anything that would suspect them of you being a Christian. Or camouflage yourself. You know what I mean? Speak the language of the world, dress like them, do the things they do. You want to blend in. If you do that, you're under the basket. Be content to let someone else do it. That's something that's real popular. Let somebody else do it. If you do those things, you are putting your light under a basket. But the other question, putting our lights on a lampstand, how do we do that? How do we do that? Obviously, one, the light's not going to be very bright. People are not going to see. They're not going to be able to see the gospel. They're not going to be able to see Christians. But the other is, he's saying, you put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to the whole house. And an interesting thing about light, it travels very far. Well, you know what? We have constraints. We have constraints, and I understand that, and I'm sure you do too. We're constrained by the number of people we have, how much money we have, how much time we have, all these things. But you know what? We still have resources. But do we use them? Do we use them? It's not uncommon for me to go to a congregation and walk around in their church building, and they have resources everywhere. I'm not saying they don't use them, but there's all kinds of resources that you can get. If you're a small congregation like ours, our congregation is very small. And we've been able to do some really incredible things. You know why? Because there are bigger congregations that are mission-minded, and they're looking to send their people to help. We had sojourners come up, and they knocked doors in Wadsworth. We had house-to-house mailed out, and house-to-house helped us to be able to send out more copies of house-to-house for things. There are big congregations out there that are willing to help you if you're willing to let them help you, if you want to do that kind of thing. But we also have divine constraints. Divine constraints. What do I mean? Well, there's New Testament churches of Christ, try to follow the New Testament pattern. But sometimes people want to do things in addition to the New Testament pattern. All for numbers. Well, if you're going to try to organize yourself, conduct yourself according to the things of the New Testament, you have to be very careful about the things that you do or don't do. Sometimes people, they'll have all kinds of gimmicks or events, or maybe they have special music, or maybe they have rock concerts, or, is that a part of the first century church? And we have to be careful. We have to think about the divine constraints that we have. If we're going to be a church patterned after the New Testament, we have to realize we just can't do every little fad that comes along. It may not be appropriate. It may not be authorized according to the Scriptures. Sometimes people will look at us and say, we don't understand why you don't have instrumental music. Well, because there's no instruments in the New Testament. We try to follow the New Testament. And people think that's peculiar, but it's not really. I mean, it may be peculiar to them until they realize, if they go back in history, a lot of the denominations in the days of Martin Luther and Calvin and those guys, a lot of their leaders spoke out against instruments in worship. Look up John Calvin, what he said about instrumental music, for example. And there's others too. Well, people look at that and they go, well, we don't understand why you want to have an instrument. You could really pack them in here if you had a band. You could really get them then. Well, the response is we have constraints. We are constrained to do things by the way that God has specified for us to do. And that's what we're trying to do. It's not all about numbers. I was reading this book, and it's The Unchurched Next Door by Tom Rainer. It was 2003, and he had a couple of statistics I thought was really interesting, and I want to share them with you. Now, this is some research that he did, but I want you to think about the idea of inviting someone to church. Inviting someone to church. When is the last time you personally invited someone that you've never invited before to worship services? When's the last time you did it? If you say never, I hope that you'll think about doing that. If you're expecting one man to do everything for the church, you need to think again. But this is what Rayner said in his book. 82% of the unchurched, now that's a term he uses for people that just aren't familiar with going to church. 82% of the unchurched are at least somewhat likely to attend church if they are invited. 82%. He goes on, but only 2% of church members invite an unchurched person to church. Now, I find that rather startling. 82% would come if they were invited, but only 2% invite. Now, I know there's exceptions all over, but I just want you to think about the importance of personally inviting someone to services. It sort of puzzles me in a way because we have on the program, we talk about, we have our service times, we have our address, we have our internet, we have the phone number, we tell people they're invited, we have special events, we have a sign out in front of our building that says you're invited, even tells you the times that you can come. I'm sort of like puzzled. I'm like, well, why in the world would somebody think that they're not welcomed or they're not invited? It's sort of peculiar. I'm sure there's reasons that might happen, but I want us to think about the importance of personally inviting someone. It's not just some passive, static kind of a thing. It's not just some sign. I mean, you ever gone up to somebody's house and they have the welcome mat? You just walk on in? No. You knock on the door, you may walk on in. But, even though it says welcome, you want to be invited in, to come in. Well, we ought to be able to understand that. We ought to be able to see that and how much it would mean to somebody to know that you're interested in them coming to worship with you. And then when you bring them, don't forget about them. Don't just give them in the door and then all of a sudden, you disappear. You're going to need to take care of them. Invite them to sit with you. Make sure they know where the facilities are at. Ask them, if there's anything that they need. Maybe they have a special needs that they have that you can help them with. Introduce them to people. Tell people about your friend. Make sure they know. You might think, well, those are little things, but do we do them? Again, only 2% of church members invite somebody to church. I hope that's not true of us. We need to give serious thought about it. If you want a good book on personal evangelism, one I'd like to recommend to you is one by Andrew Irwin. And he wrote a book called Each One, Reach One, a study of church growth and personal evangelism. And he made a statement here. I want to share it with you. I want you to give some serious thought about it. And it's on pessimism. Pessimism. He says, pessimism is never kept quiet. When a brother is pessimistic, he will no doubt discourage another brother. Numbers 13 through 14. As Christians, we are commanded to encourage and provoke one another unto love and good works. Hebrews 10:24. When a brother discourages another brother because of his lack of faith in things good, he is sinning against God. It is no doubt disturbing and discouraging to Christians who want to see the church grow and yet are privy to the many times their congregation's eldership as business meetings are filled with discussions critiquing why good works cannot work. We ask, instead of thinking about all the reasons why a good work cannot work, why not discuss all the reasons why a good work can work? Pessimism it's deadly. It's deadly. Churches, congregations, they should do everything they can to push pessimism out. I mean, I tell people, I teach a group of people, and they're great people, and I remind them every once in a while, not that they don't know this or anything, or not that they're guilty of it, but I just like to remind them. I said, I used to work in industry, and I really didn't want to go to church to have people bickering and fighting. I really didn't want that. That wasn't what I was looking for. I mean, I know some people like that kind of a thing, but I told them, look, if I want a bunch of bickering, I'll stay at work. I'll stay at work. Got all kinds of it there. I don't need to have it in church. Why would we do that? We have to, we have to really concentrate when we go to church services to make sure that we're aware that, the world rushes in on us. It crowds us, and we have stresses and everything. And people ought to understand that, but we need to be mindful of that light, how that is influencing people. We need to be very careful about that to make sure that we drive pessimism out. I'm sure you've heard this kind of a thing, and I'm sure you've seen it. If you have a good experience somewhere, maybe you go and you get your hair done, and you have a real good experience. Or I'll give you an example I like. I bought a belt buckle. I bought a belt buckle of Montana when I was in Montana. And you know what? That thing, I wore it, I really liked it, and all of a sudden it broke. And I was like, oh. So I called the place that I got it, and I told them, I said, look, I don't have a receipt. I'm clear over here in Ohio. I said, my belt buckle broke from Montana. And they said, what kind is it? And I told them, and they said, no problem. The problem we have is we don't have any more of those because we've realized there's a design flaw to them. So pick which belt buckle you would like. I mean, comparable, obviously, that'd be fair. So I told them, you know what? A few days go by, they sent me the belt buckle. There it is. And it was actually a little nicer than the one I picked out. You might think, well, they should do that. Okay. But you know what? I've been to other places. They give me a hard time. I mean, I'm a customer, and they'll give me nothing but grief. Do you have a receipt? No. Well, I'm sorry, we can't help you. You'll have to have a gift card. You can't get your cash back. Or, I don't want a gift card. Or you have to exchange it for another product. I don't want to do that. Why can't I just have my money back? My money was good enough to buy the thing. Why can't I have it back when I return the thing? I mean, these are basic things, right? Well, if you have a good experience at a place, you tell people about it. I went out and gave them a positive review and different things like that. And, and that sort of went fine for a little bit and all that. But you know what? If I have a bad experience somewhere, I can't wait to tell everybody about how bad this experience was I had. I wouldn't go there for nothing. Those people are the rudest people. They don't have any idea what their business is. They don't care about the customer at all. Now, I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about the church. When people come to our services, do we give them bad things to say? If we give them bad things to say, you better believe it. They're going to say it. Do we give them good things to say? See, we have to think about that. We have to think about it. How can we shine our Christian lights? Well, we need to keep our focus on pleasing the Lord and not men. We need to speak what is right, true, honorable, trustworthy, and loyal to the Lord. We need to listen to other people's opinions respectfully. If others are discouraging you in your Christian walk, then pray for them. Realize you're valuable to the Lord and that you can render valuable service. Praise and worship the name of the Lord at every opportunity you have. Speak the truth in love. Remember, Christianity is a taught religion. Find someone to teach. Study God's Word, both in and out of Bible class, and worship. And pray. Pray, pray, pray. You've heard that expression. Last but not least, pray. Well, pray. I really like this quote. This is from Augustine of Hippo. And he makes a statement, and I've always appreciated it. I didn't know who said it or who was credited with it. I don't know much about Augustine, but I always like this statement. Pray as though everything depended on God, and act as if everything depended on you. What are you doing? What are you, not your preacher, not your elders, not your deacons, not somebody else. What are you doing? What are you doing? So as we think about this idea, these two questions, are you putting your light under a basket, or are you putting your lights on a lampstand? I know we have constraints and things like that, but we need to pray and work more. We need to realize how important it is to share the gospel with other people. We need to make sure that whatever our constraints may be, that we don't invent our own and create habits that are not healthy. We need to make sure that maybe it's time to do a self-assessment. Maybe it's time to have somebody come in independently and do an assessment and take a look around and give you some suggestions. Whatever it is, whether it's personal or congregational, we need to let our Christian light shine like that lamp on a lampstand. Thanks for watching our program. Before we close our program today, we'd like to take a moment and review this roadmap to heaven with you since the matter is so serious. There are many incorrect set of directions out there, and sadly, so many people are following them. For example, some people have been given wrong turns. They believe things such as faith only, works only, or grace only. Or some attempt to change the order of the turns, being baptized before they even believe. Some people fail to realize what point they are on the map. Don't even open their Bibles yet, and they think they're saved already. As a person travels in a car or takes a hike, has to follow the proper directions, so we must follow the proper directions to heaven. Let's take a look at the directions on our roadmap to heaven here. You have to look at these passages in your Bible for yourself. We'll just list the steps, the turns on the way. First is to believe or to have faith. And then number 2, to repent, to turn away from sin. Number 3 is to confess that Jesus is the Son of God. Number 4 is immersion, or to be baptized, which is a burial in water to have your sins washed away. And then you're added to the church by the Lord, not by a group of people, or not by giving some kind of testimonial experience or things like that. And then once you're added, you need to serve and worship the Lord faithfully all the days of your life. And the key word's faithfully. You don't waver. And that's very important. We need to keep in mind, too, that in Noah's day there was a big flood, and only people in the ark were saved from the flood. The same is true today. There is no salvation outside the Lord's church. Where are you on the roadmap to heaven? Thanks for watching our program. Please let us know if we can assist you with further information for your journey.